It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Laugh.
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
All right, let's go already.
And John Nash.
Pucker up, Buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Tim Bennett. You can find us every Wednesday live on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you missed the live broadcast, our show is always available on YouTube. And the audio portion is available from iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitchery, and on Reverie, which I've actually just updated the content for. So Reverie will be all up to date pretty soon. And you can call us anytime you want during the live broadcast here in the studio.
Reverie?
You've been watching Reverie, actually, right?
Yeah, we don't have a lot. We're one of the longest shows, I would say.
We're unique content, right?
Unique content, exactly.
So the number here, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube and you want to call in and chime in and share your thoughts and suggestions, is 877-962-6846.
I hope John makes it real big this week. Remember how big he had it last time?
No.
That's what I like.
We talked about that.
What do you mean we?
No, thank you, John.
It's too small.
No.
If I'm watching, I like the big.
Well,
thing.
You're not in. Where is your head at? Okay, so you're in a studio, right? If someone's watching this, they're on a computer.
But they like it big too.
They like it big too.
Who wants it small? You can have it big, John.
It's like what Paul said last week. He goes 3 or 5. It doesn't matter. They're all, those are all numbers no one likes.
No.
That was actually a funny call when he called in, and suddenly we were off on Flesh Jacks and a whole bunch.
Did you see the Celine Dion thing I posted that she sang at the Billboard Awards?
What did she do?
So there's a picture of Celine Dion. She's singing. If you go to our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio, I posted it there. But it looks like she's singing under a Flesh Jack. The thing that Allie gave me last week. It's this big cylinder thing, and Celine Dion's under it. And so I said, looks like Paul. And I said to Paul, I tagged Paul and Mass in it. He said, that's going to be a big cleanup. It looked like it was ready to swallow her. I couldn't believe the queen who must have designed this thing. It was like this huge amoeba hanging over. You haven't seen it?
No, I got to go on and check it out.
You have to go look at it on Screen Grab on Facebook, or I'm sure it's somewhere else, but I'm sure somebody got a laugh of it. A lot of those things don't happen by accident.
Meaning someone sat and designed it and thought,
Don't you think?
Well, it could be, right?
When I was at Subaru, we had all kinds of hidden things all the time in different presentations. We had, for going on, I think it was 7-8 years, we had one speech where we put the same line in.
Well, it was because of how they said it, right?
For the Japanese, or there was this Japanese person named Fujiki-san, and it sounded like getting jiggy with it. So whenever he came out on stage, he wanted modern music, and so it was na 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 na, get Fujiki with it, na 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 na, and that's what it always sounded like. He loved it. He waved, came out.
He loved it. He waved.
Getting jiggy with it.
Came out.
It sounded like get Fujiki with it. So those things don't happen by accident. People are
No, they do not. They do not. And you had more opportunity than most to plan that kind of stuff. I mean, we call those Easter eggs.
Yeah, well, you're exactly.
Little Easter eggs. Putting an Easter egg somewhere in agency land is a little more difficult unless the client figures it out ahead of time.
Well, you did that with the ad you did. One of the first ads you did for Subaru on logo. We did Easter eggs. There was
loaded with them.
Yeah, we had. You put a rally car. You hit a rally car in there. You had Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens was in there.
You and Greg.
Yep.
Or you and Bob. Mm-hmm. Forget if it was you and Greg or you and Bob. Your bike.
My bike was on the top of the car.
We had a Volvo up on tires. Right. We had a Volvo up on skids,
blocks or something.
Yeah.
But it was all very subtle because it was built into the motion graphics package. And I remember when the guys were doing that. I'm like, oh, you'll be able to see this? They're like, if you stop it and go frame by frame, you will. But
attention.
You have to. And some of them even had references to like little street signs that said this way to Oz and things like that. Yeah, I remember that.
The good old days, John, of advertising when you could have free reign and intuition.
When you could have fun before big numbers came in and ruined everything. Data. What's the data on that? What's the ROI? I don't know. Hey, so we have a jam-packed show today, by the way.
Jam-packed?
It is jam-packed with lots of good information. No guests today. It's just me and Tim.
Well, I like it.
And we're going to be doing the random sample later on, which is where we each choose headlines from different publications around the country and the world. Actually, my site, one of mine is The World. That's the Gay Star News site. Do you have a world site on your list?
You know, I think a lot of the gay sites are The World.
Well, do you have? I think I have.
You have Gay Star News. I had HuffPost.
Okay, HuffPost would be
worldly.
Yeah.
Although the queer voices, I'm not sure I like that anymore. You know, I used to be a slave. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I used to be a slave to the Huffington Post every day. It was almost my go-to news source.
Yeah, actually.
But I noticed that the headlines never matched the story. It started getting to be clickbait for me, and then I just stopped. And I'm wondering if others have too. And then they started changing their whole branding and formatting. And
I noticed the new logo now.
they had way too many different subsets of sites. And
Well,
I got
for
bored with
me,
it.
when I would go there, the browser became populated with ads, and like it was a very ad-driven, ad-heavy site, and that actually slows the experience down of reading. It's not so enjoyable.
And it's the same with Queerty. Queerty seems to now all be about how to get a straight guy, which, of course, we all knew that years ago.
There's only two methods.
Six-pack.
There's really only 2 or 3 methods, right? It's a 6-pack, it's a hot tub, it's who knows
Your
what.
wife taking care of you, that's too bad.
Actually, I think I was on Queerty the other day, and I did click on clickbait, and it was like, my secret to getting a straight guy in your bed in 20 minutes or something, it revealed. And so I thought this should be good. So I click on it, and it was one of these slideshow things that the deeper you go,
And then you're in it and you can't get out of it. Yeah.
So I keep clicking, and any second now he was going to reveal the 5 words that were the trigger words to
Right.
get you to have sex with a straight man. And I thought, okay, do I go and get the trigger word? No, but then when you get to the point, the trigger words are going to cost money. That's where
Oh, is that what that was?
eventually you too can have these trigger words for a low price of.
Here's what I always said. Don't drive drunk, stay here. It's 5 words. Don't drive drunk, stay here. If you don't mind sharing, I've got a big enough bed, if you don't mind sharing.
It is a peculiar fascination with some people. This notion of turning someone or getting the straight guy or something. I just don't. It's never been a fascinating point to
We've
me.
been married for 100 years. So.
For 101.
101 years. Maren Johns, you remember Maren Johns? She's the
Curve
editor
magazine.
of Curve magazine. So she had something on Facebook today, and I want you to try it. But I'd have to dig it up later. But it was, you answer. It takes a look at your Facebook profile and then gives a name for your memoir, which your memoir would be.
Did you do it?
Yeah, and it was scary.
How close it was?
It's something that I don't believe is anywhere in my Facebook profile yet. It's something I do all the time. So I couldn't. It was a little bit scary. And Maren's was something like, I did what? It was that was hers. Mine was, could you tell me where the bathroom is? And how often do we go somewhere and I'm always looking for the bathroom?
That's kind of weird.
Isn't that really weird? It's like
The minute you said it, I could call up about 5 or 6 times where we'll get to a restaurant or a
where's the
hotel
bathroom?
and we'll on the road trips or something. You'd be like, can you please tell me where the
bathroom is, or I need to use the restroom or something because
How long did it take
blood
to do
pressure
the
medicine.
thing?
About 3 seconds. Maybe we'll do it one of the breaks. I just thought it was very odd because I don't think I have any bathroom humor on my Facebook page, so I don't know where the bathroom thing came from.
Can you please
know what
tell me
they
where the
pulled.
bathroom is? Now you got me. All right, so later on while we're moving through the show, if there's a little minute, I'll take the iPad up. And
Well, if you go to
Her site, her
go to
page,
Maren's
Maren's
and then
page,
just
she
click
has
on it, and then it wants to pull up your.
we should
your
have
name.
Maren on again soon. She's a lot of fun. She's
Traveling.
a super cool woman. I love her. We've had the pleasure of traveling with her in multiple countries.
Yeah, she's fun. Well, the last time we traveled with her, she was mad at you. I told you that story
Why?
because you had asked if Bacardi, when we were
Oh,
in Sitges,
that-
if Bacardi was part of Bacardi.
Tim says she was mad at me.
Oh, no, she was mad. She told me, she said, can't you corral him? She's Australian, so I can't do the accent. Can't you corral him? Can't you tell him to just shut up? I said, I've been trying for 30 years.
Look where you
hard
got.
to do.
It's very hard to do.
She said, Captain Obvious, of course. Now we've got to hear the history of Bacardi rum.
And everybody's standing in the baking sun at Sitges.
You did the same stupid thing at the Neon Museum in Vegas.
I changed the bulbs.
I don't know why you feel like you've got to ask questions like that.
well, no one else was.
Why ask any question? It was 120 degrees. We were sweating
very
like
hot.
pigs. And you said to the woman, what kind of, are those LED bulbs? How do you change the bulbs? And she went through this whole.
And then she goes, and she was the only one who had an umbrella. She remember she had that little
My
parasol.
God, that crowd again looked at you like, you've got to be effing kidding me. This one's asking about changing the bulbs on the strip.
Yeah, it was.
And then you listen intently like you're interested. You're not interested. You're just trying to make chatter. You don't like silence.
Not when someone's doing their darndest.
Let them do
to
it.
Educate
Let
you.
them do it.
Yeah,
Keep them moving.
Yeah. All right. So I'm glad Marin was mad in quotes.
She was mad.
But that for Marin to be mad at me, like that's okay, man. That's like, don't do that again. That's not like I'm never going to speak to him again.
She
Kind
was
of
just-
mad. Yeah.
She was mad that you were extending our trip
All
unnecessarily.
right. So what caught your eye this week besides
What
the
caught
normal
your eye?
headlines?
Here's what Tim and John found.
So this was a headline that I saw, and you actually brought this up to me a while back, and I said actually it was going to be a caught my eye, so I brought it forward.
Yay.
So the headline is, the fancier the car, the more likely the driver is a jerk. So this was a study that was done. There were 3 separate studies done. One was done in the University of San Diego, one was done by the University of California, Irvine, and one was done at the University of Delaware. And they said that it turns out that the rich really are different from you and me. They drive like entitled jerks. They're middle finger pointing, ride up your trunk bullying, out of my way motorists. That's the authoritative word from researchers who keep track of this sort of thing. The 3 studies over 5 years prove that people driving expensive cars are more likely to cut off other motorists and less likely to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalks. And they said, so they classify an expensive car as 50,000 plus. And they said that they can't figure out this overall phenomenon, but they said that it suggests that wealthier drivers may reflect an adherence to ethical codes geared toward maximizing one's self-interest, often at the expense of others, and that money makes you more likely to exhibit the characteristics of being a jerk. So in the one study in San Diego, they watched over 800 drivers at 50 intersections in Southern California, and they ended up checking out to find out
brands and
who was doing the offensive driving. Turns out BMW was the biggest offender.
And that's what we talked about last week. I think it was either on the show or offline. I said something about BMW drivers.
Now,
Okay.
I said to myself, if you're that rich, get a driver. Wouldn't you have a driver if you were wealthy? I don't think $50,000 cars anymore aren't. I mean, that's a lot of money, I think, for a car, but the cars right now are very expensive. So $50,000 is.
I like driving though.
If you were wealthy, though, wouldn't you have a driver? I would. Somebody pick you up. Somebody waiting out front for you.
I don't know. I don't
A couple
know.
cocktails, couple pops. You don't have to worry about driving.
Okay, that's a little different. You know, the bar in the back, that whole bit. But I mean,
No, you don't need a bar in the back. I just mean, you're out at a bar. That's why I don't understand how these Hollywood people get pulled over for drinking or looking for hookers. Get a driver. So anyway, they called BMW to ask them for a response. BMW did not respond, nor did they want to defend.
BMW corporate.
BMW corporate of
I'm
North
not
America here in
surprised,
North
right.
Jersey. There was a request to defend their customers, and they said no. They had no response. Then they asked the police officers what they thought, and the police didn't really want to go out. This was Philadelphia cops. They didn't want to go out on a limb, but they did say that major accidents. They said when there's major accidents, that is generally across the board. So they said
It's not necessarily
it's
one
not necessarily
brand.
that expensive cars are more accidents because they drive bad. So that was one of the little glitches in the side report. But then they go through a bunch of different interviews with people and all their experiences of people badly driving with expensive cars. I find the worst drivers are usually, and I know we have a couple of listeners that drive them probably, but the Prius to me seems to be the new Subaru Loyale. You look at the driver, they got an arm growing out of their neck. But I was behind one today.
They have an arm growing out of their neck.
Yeah,
Okay.
the car immediately comes with handicap tags. So that's what we used to say at the dealerships. Well, here comes the Subaru driver, get the handicap tag.
You still call the Prius a car that basically resembles a penalty box.
Well, so I was behind one today.
The timeout chair of cars, right?
And I just knew who was driving it. And the traffic, there was trying to be a merge. And the thing takes about 90 seconds to get up to 40 miles per hour. I mean, it's like a go-kart. It's not even a go-kart. A go-kart has more
Box
pickup.
Derby.
This thing chugs along like the old Subaru Loyal that you could beat in a foot race. And by the time this thing, it finally got up to speed after about 1.5 miles, and then I passed her in the slow lane because she was just chugging along at 50 in the 70 lane. And I looked over, and sure enough, it was some probably college professor on her way to go teach philosophy and women's studies.
She wasn't texting and driving. But this underspeed thing, even a state trooper will tell you, being below the limit is just as bad as being above the limit because it really, people aren't expecting it.
So that's what caught my eye.
While you were setting up your story, you were correct.
You didn't pay attention to me?
I paid complete attention. All I had to do was hit a button on Facebook, and I got my book title.
Oh, what's your book title?
Can you guess at all? It involves
Year 2000.
Actually, this one surprised me. I'll read it.
Pedaling as fast as I can.
No, it's Who Is Calling Me at This Time?
That's you. You're aggravated all the time.
Who is calling me at this time?
You don't pick up your phone. I've tried calling you. You don't pick up.
That's because the ringer's off.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, call comes through. I'm just not hearing it. It's face down. I don't want to know. All right, so I have.
Who's calling me now?
Who's calling me at this time? I would change it to Who's Calling Me Now.
Now.
That's Who's Calling Me Now.
Like
And
Big
yours-
Edie. Who's calling me now, Edie?
Boy, both of ours are kind of cranky. Where's the bathroom?
Where's the bathroom and who's calling me
Who's
now?
calling me now? Cranky.
What caught your eye?
I have two quick ones, and the first one is called "This Man Got the Perfect Revenge on Rude Coffee Shop Customers." So a gentleman named Khalil Sahanui.
Can't you find a story with a John Smith?
I know.
Every
Let's say
time
his
you-
name is John Smith.
Do these stories.
Happened here in Chicago or something. He's an internet security consultant who was sitting quietly in a coffee shop on a Wednesday. At a table next to him were two people discussing their startup in somewhat loud voices. They were rude to the staff. Multiple people asked them to please lower their voices, but they were like bragging
You're
and
going to open a coffee shop?
and so as he's sitting there, they hit on the perfect name for their new company. So he said they just found the perfect name for their new business. So what did this guy do? The second he heard the name, he went and bought the domain.
That's something you would have done.
You'd
You'd have done it. You'd have tap, and then you would have held it to me instead of just.
And so the article says not everyone is quite so quick thinking. Sanui, though,
That's
insisted
funny.
that these two had carried on being loud even after being asked to quiet down. He posted this thing on Twitter, and he doesn't claim that he's the first person to ever do this. He said, but he was glad he thought of it. And some woman,
Does it say what the name of the company or what kind of
didn't
company
mention
it
the
was?
name of it, but it was going to be a services company. And so he tweeted it, and the former Oakland Raiders CEO, a woman named Amy Trask, tweeted back, "I love this. Positively brilliant, sensational. I salute you. I wish I could do this myself next time the opportunity presents itself."
Oh.
He wasn't sure so the article kind of concludes by saying these guys that came up with the perfect name for their business they'll have no idea this happened, but it's kind of you'd have to connect the dots pretty quickly. Like if you're sitting somewhere talking loudly and then you'd go back to your office to get the domain name and it's gone. I don't know. The article finished by saying, when it comes to exacting revenge, there's little cleaner than what he did. Revenge is all about hitting your enemy where it really hurts and then quietly walking away. And you might think this was petty and passive-aggressive, but it turns out that science has demonstrated that taking revenge on someone is a wonderful way of making yourself feel better. Not that you and I never, well.
I like revenge.
But wait. I might not get you today. I might not get you tomorrow.
But I'll
I'm going to get you. And my other caught my eye is, this has totally caught my eye, meaning I'm like, wow, this is so kind of weird but cool. Anthill Art. So there are a couple of artists around the country who do this, and they find, hopefully, an abandoned anthill. And so this is a video that John can play while there's sound, but we don't have to have the sound. They take molten aluminum and they pour it down into the ant colony.
Yeah.
And what emerges after the aluminum hardens is a perfect mold of what the colony looks like from underground. And it's pretty interesting. Okay, so now naturally, I'm fascinated by this. Where I'm like, okay, they're pouring that down. They're gonna
Step on that anthill.
That's a huge anthill, by the way. When you see that's a pretty big thing, right? I haven't on our.
Who has molten aluminum?
Well, the artist did.
Where is this in like South Africa or something?
No, it's here in the States.
So he's pouring in all that
So see how the steam's coming up.
Yeah.
So if,
Killing the
if
ants.
you're listening to people went crazy about killing the ants. So look at that.
You
Woo,
should kill the ants.
So if you're not watching this on YouTube or on Facebook right now, I'll describe it. He poured this molten aluminum down a pretty big anthill, and now steam's coming out, and it's going to harden. And after time, he starts scraping away the mound, and it starts exposing the cast. So he makes a cast of the anthill. So you just said something that a lot of people online said. One guy says, "Am I the only one thinking it is kind of wrong killing all these ants with liquid metal?"
Well, I don't care about killing the ants.
And then someone said, "I just took a look at Facebook page of a different artist. He pours the metal into fire ant colonies with property owners' permission, but with other ants, he tries to find abandoned colonies to do this with." Another guy, and he says, but they always check to make sure they're vacated. So they really do try to make sure they're not.
So now he's digging this thing out of the ground.
That's how deep those ant colonies.
What are you going to do with this?
He'll hose it down, and then they sell it to schools and science labs, and wait till you see it. It's like a piece of art. You've never seen something like this.
They sell it to schools and science labs?
Yeah.
Why?
To study, because apparently he's done a bunch of these castings, and all ants, different subsets of ants create different looking colonies, which is kind of weird. So this is all underground. I think this thing's cool.
Looks like a silver-plated manure. It looks like
Those are all the tunnels, and those are all the chambers.
Are the ants dead in there too?
Some might be in there. They might be in the.
Is that something you'd put out on your coffee table?
Not on my coffee table. But
where would you put it?
I don't know, but look, that's the inside of an ant. That's an ant colony, 18 inches deep. That weighed and there's the finished product.
You put lights on it, have a tree. I could use that as a Christmas tree.
It does look like they're very intricate. So some people went crazy about this because of this whole notion of how dare you kill the ants. And this was what I found fascinating. Some guy chimes in and says, "I'm an exterminator, and I can say that if those fire ants," he mostly does fire ant colonies, if those fire ants were in your yard, you wouldn't care at all.
Yeah.
Promise it, guarantee it. You wouldn't care how they died, just as long as they were gone. This is an anthill that had invaded human space. It's an important nuisance, a licensed pest. I didn't know that fire ants are technically licensed pests and dangerous because they bite you and they're tiny.
Kill them.
So
raid. That's why there's raid.
That was that was the second caught my eye was the an Anthill Art. But you had the same reaction I did, which is, well, it's molten aluminum. What are they doing? This is so. But then you came to but they had to kill ants, but I don't really care about it. There's a whole subset of people that are like, how dare you kill the ants? And
let's go to Don in Alabama. Hey, Don, welcome to the show.
Hi, I was actually stepping back about 4 minutes. You were talking about the Prius and electric cars. I had my first driverless car experience this past weekend. And I was just curious from the point of two people who've sold automobiles, how are they going to market driverless vehicles? Because you can't really talk about performance. You can't talk about handling. What do you sell it on?
It's funny. I actually had dinner with somebody that's studying this for a number of the big brands, Cedagrin, at Isology. He's studying it for a number of the larger brands that are doing these autonomous cars. There's some prediction that by 2020 they'll be pretty prevalent. Now, whether that happens or not, because we all thought we'd be driving electric cars, or as John says, spaceships like the Jetsons. But, they're marketing it by miles and by convenience and cost per mile. So in other words, if you were at a restaurant, and right now if you're going to Uber or Lyft or get a cab, this goes one step further, that the car just shows up, you get in it and you go. And so there's no need to then buy a car. There's no need for you to have a garage for a car. You just almost have this. It's like these bike share programs that these cars will just be docked in docking stations. You call one up, it picks you up, it takes you from point A to point B, and you don't really care. It's almost, I want to say it's almost a commodity like electricity. But they're concerned about it. A lot of the automobile manufacturers are concerned because, particularly in the United States, we have such a love for cars. And you heard John say, and a love to drive. I can't imagine you would take an autonomous car anywhere outside of a city. But I don't know. But everybody's going that way. It's moving full steam ahead.
I don't know. I think it's.
This thing was remarkable. I mean, it was able to interact with human traffic, rather easily. But I was just thinking, for me, I'm the reverse. This is what I'd like to have if I'm going from here to, say, Chicago or here to Atlanta. It's just sit in, take a nap, wake up in the next city.
Right.
versus
Don,
you know,
that's a good point because I sometimes prefer taking the train for that exact reason. You could sit down and get stuff done. You could look out the window. You don't have to be engaged in offense mode or whatever defensive mode as a driver. And it reminds me of, was the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where all the cars are self-driving and they all just basically sit and chat with each other while the cars are doing their thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. And for two ad guys like us who sold the experience of driving the car, the handling, the cockpit experience, like how you interact with the instrumentation as well, that's going to be a big shift.
The other thing I find out, there was road construction. And a number of people decided they didn't want to stay in the traffic and they made U-turns. And so again, I don't know how you would interact with a driverless car. Is it just going to stay in the construction, or if there's an accident, or can you override it and say, make a U-turn and take me down the other road? I want to go a different route. There's a lot of things that we do as humans that I'm not so sure that the sensors
or the whatever the AI is on the car.
Is going to be able to do that. So I don't know. They say a lot of it though is just simply going to be getting people from point A to point B without having the expense of owning a car. So we'll see.
Okay. Just wanted to ask two ad guys.
Pittsburgh is actually doing a big test right now in the city of Pittsburgh,
right?
But it apparently is not going well. So I don't know what that means, other than the story said it was not going well and Pittsburgh was going to kick him out.
Yeah, it was the Uber self-driving vehicle.
Yeah, was it Uber?
Yeah, it was Uber.
And I don't know what the issue was.
They did talk about it, and it did relate partly to the fact that the cars were not adept enough at making traffic decisions that you and I would make because we could just simply drive over that little berm. Right. But if it's not in the software, it doesn't do it.
Right. Thanks for the call, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks.
So business birthdays.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So speaking of automobiles, we have two business birthdays today, May 24th. Celebrating 70 today is Martin Winterkorn. He's the former chairman of the board of Volkswagen AG, which is the parent company of the Volkswagen Group, which owns Audi and Porsche and Lamborghini and Seat and some other things, Skoda.
He picked some fun pictures of him.
Can you imagine? So one of his big things, though, he was the guy behind the launch and improving the production of the new Beetle. So you have the Beetle up there up top. But he was the guy who was in charge when the news came down about the emissions scandal that was happening at Volkswagen. And so this was from part of the press conference. I mean, it looks like George Bush debating somebody, right? It's like, what time do I get out of here? Oh my God.
Here,
right?
Yeah.
So he had put a plan together called Strategy 2018, where the Volkswagen Group was going to surpass General Motors and Toyota by 2018 to become the world's largest automaker by not only units, but also profitability, innovation, and customer satisfaction. But then September 2015, they got hit with the emissions scandal, which now is actually going further down. There's a number of other companies, if you just saw Fiat Chrysler,
got hit
they're
with
going after, as they are Mercedes and Hyundai. But he took responsibility, though. He said that he resigned after the news came out. He said he blamed the terrible mistake on a few people whom he did not name for the international scandal, but he resigned immediately afterwards and accepted responsibility while asserting that he was not aware of any wrongdoing on his part, but because he was the guy in charge, he stepped down, which, people do. And then the other one was a fun one. It's Harry Burnett H.B. Reese. I didn't know there was such a person. He died at he was born today in 1879, May 24th. He died May 16th in 1956 at the age of 76. He worked for Hershey Company at a dairy. And he was an entrepreneur, and the Hershey chocolates ended up selling the dairy farm. But he ended up getting a job at another one in 1923 and started playing around with developing different types of candies. Got married, had 16 children, and invented in 1928 the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
One of my favorite all-time.
I brought you.
Oh, yay!
So we can have this, and John and Garrett, we can have a Reese's Peanut, and Allie, our Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. John, everybody loves the Reese's. Who doesn't?
Who doesn't love? Oh, look, you did how
got the
thoughtful
individual
of you.
ones.
You did little individual Reese's.
So they were such a success that in 1935 he stopped selling all the other
Candies.
chocolates that he was making. Part of it, he said, was due to the war. There was a scarcity of materials, which led him to discontinue making the other candies. But ended up just having the factory for these, and
Do you put them in their freezer?
sold off all his mortgages, and that's that.
Do you do a refrigerator with these? Or are you
I do put them in the fridge because I do like them that way
I
better.
tell you, my old business partner Greg and even Bob, to some degree, they were maniacal about fresh Reese's.
Well, I was going to say, so one of those pictures, I think in the second picture, if John or Garrett can put that back up. So see the picture? That's a big problem everybody has that they said they still can't fix. They said you have 85 years to work on this, Reese's, figure it out. The bottom gets stuck, when it's a little warm. You see that in the middle?
When it's warm.
And then the other thing I thought was interesting, I saw this on eBay on the far right there. There's a Reese's scent, perfume scent.
You saw that on eBay? Well,
and they have one for dark chocolate. I was going to order one, John, but they were $15. So I didn't know if I wanted to go that far out on a limb. But they've got one for dark chocolate. They have one for different types of candy flavors, which I thought was be interesting. Maybe Reese's, I don't know, would you want to smell like a peanut butter cup?
No. But I remember at our when we had our office down on Park Place, there would be my assistant Josh would go out sometimes, and if he found a store that had a fresh batch, then everyone Reese was on board with the Reese's train because it was fresh peanut butter cups.
Well, thanks. So that's that.
And at break, we'll have to give the guys Reese's.
We have a quick call from Danny in Connecticut. Danny, what do you have for us?
Hi, Tim and John. I'm actually glad to see you guys, on the air. I used to listen to the show when you guys were on OQ and stuff like that. But
well, thank
it's
you.
always great to see Tim in person, the handsome man he is.
Oh.
I'm just the Lex Luthor to your Superman.
Anyway, there was a guest that you had either last week or the week before, and he went to Cuba, and he was talking about how he got there. I was interested in traveling there, but finding out the 10 rules that you have to go under, that was kind of a turnoff. How did he get there, and how easy was that process for him?
He went, you're talking about Jim Werner, and that was our last week's show. Jim works for the city of Philadelphia and also runs Vagabond, is his website, vagabond.com. Jim went on a what was it called?
It was a people-to-people cultural exchange
thing. It's a very easy visa to get, apparently, and he flew directly out of JFK. It was a standard flight, 3.5 hours to Cuba.
And the airline handled a lot of the visa information. The best thing to do is and you can find him if you go to our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio, or if you go to Vagabond.com, which is Fagabond. You can send Jim a personal note and ask him. He'd be happy to give you the information. He's very good about that. He'd be very good about getting back to you. If it's easier to find us, send us a note and we'll forward it to Jim.
Yeah.
And he'll give you the information. But we had talked to him after the show about the same thing because we were wondering how difficult it was to get all the visas or the permissions to go. But he said it's not that hard at all, and the airline actually covered a lot of it.
I was actually surprised that the airline did that. So yeah, Danny, I would you could reach out to us at letters@Focus Group Radio or at Vagabond is Jim Werner's website, and he would love more people to go to Cuba, especially at this particular time, because I think he had a really good trip, except he didn't want to stay. He said if he did it again, he wouldn't stay in Havana quite as long as he did.
Yeah, no need to stay there that long. Yep.
All right, John, I share your love for Star Trek and anything sci-fi, and that's always great, but I always love to watch Tim. So great show, guys.
Thank you.
So if I was into sci-fi, I'd be in with Danny.
You got it.
Thanks for calling,
you're
Danny.
In anyway.
We must know who this is. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Danny.
Making me blush.
All right. As many of you know, DeepDiscount.com is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we have a ball working with them. In particular, I love putting together the Deep Discount segment every week because I get to go to their site, and it's not like shopping at another site. This is all about movies, Blu-rays, CDs, vinyl, collectibles, T-shirts, and when you go down the rabbit hole, you go down the rabbit hole pretty quick, and I do this thing where I wonder if they have this, I wonder if they have this, and before you know it, I'm like 10 pages in. But this week, Deep Discount is running a War and Western sale. And it's from titles like The Deer Hunter to The Magnificent Seven, all the way up to TV shows like The Lone Ranger and, of course, Bonanza, which I love growing up on. And to get there, focusgroupradio.com is the easiest. If you go to our homepage and you'll go down on the right-hand side, there's a logo for Deep Discount. Click on that, go through, and start shopping away. So,
Did you like Bonanza as a kid?
I did like Bonanza as a kid, yeah. And I also like Big Valley, but these were all reruns by the time we were.
I liked F Troop.
Do you like F Troop?
I did.
F Troop was kind of a comedy, though, right?
You know, man.
And it was kind of slapstick.
Yeah, I liked F Troop.
Okay, that explains that. So,
I was like F Troop.
So on the war and Western sale front, you know, I do this out of the kindness of my heart. I'm going to guide you into some titles that I personally would like to watch myself. Hey, look, John put up the Bonanza set. You know, it's funny because if you go back and look at these old TV shows, they move slow. You know, the one plot point takes an hour to nowadays.
Well, that's like old movies, and science fiction's very slow, John.
Well,
that's slow, dark world. I don't know why you like it.
Oh,
lonely place.
There we go.
The West is lonely. Science fiction's lonely. War's lonely. This is right up your alley. Lonely, dark place.
All right, what I did is I went to Deep Discount and I went through the War and Western sale page, and I found some movies that I think both Tim and me, would actually like, and I haven't seen them, and I do want to see them. So the first one up is The Monuments Men. Now, this is a pretty recent film, and it's about a group of soldiers who are actually historians and art guys who were tasked with going in to rescue artwork from Nazi Germany. Because the Nazis are really good at a lot of things. I mean, they're horrible, but they knew fine art. And when they raided all the different stuff in Europe, all that stuff went back to Berlin.
These Monument Men, I saw this.
You did? How'd you like it?
It was slow. But it was
George
good.
Clooney, a bunch of actors.
Yeah, in real life, and there was some discussion as to how factual it was. But I guess the Nazis had taken over 5 million pieces of artwork, and these guys, there were 345 of them, of these Monuments Men that went in and recovered a lot of these things. Yeah, but I fell asleep. But it was, you know me with a movie.
I do know you in a movie. Yes.
I fell asleep in American Beauty.
All right, this other movie I've always wanted to see from start to finish. I wonder if the guys in the booth have seen this. Inglourious Bastards. And
saw that one too.
And it takes place in occupied France, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, that was the name of the movie. It was supposed to be.
What?
Once Upon a Time in Occupied France.
You're not kidding, are you?
No, I'm so totally serious. That was supposed to be the name of that movie.
Once Upon a Time in Occupied France. Okay, so Inglourious Bastards.
Tarantino ended up calling it Inglourious Bastards.
Quentin Tarantino, which is one reason why I want to see it. Is his movies I really do like his style. And Bastards is fascinating. It's Basterds. It's not the normal spelling of the word bastards. But it's Brad Pitt, Melanie Laurent, Christopher Waltz, who I like a great deal. He plays the evil Nazi Colonel Hans Landa. So this is on my list.
Samuel L. Jackson was
in the movie as well.
He's not
credited.
You don't see him. He
does
the narration, does the backstory for Hugo Stiglitz.
Okay. So this is one I would like to see start to finish because I've only seen snippets and I've kind of liked it.
It was popular with the younger set.
Yeah, well, that's Quentin Tarantino. And the last movie I pulled up was War Horse, Steven Spielberg. It's the adaptation of the Tony Award-winning play. It won the best play in 2011. My mom loved it. My niece loved it. Everybody. It was Steven Spielberg. It's so this guy has this horse. The horse goes off to war, and then their horse is again brought back to him, and they reunite. It's a Spielberg movie, but again, I'd like to see that. So that was War Horse.
If your mom liked it, then what was the one she liked? I didn't like that hotel movie.
The Grand Budapest Hotel. Yeah. Hey, so let me tell you something, too. So I'm on the phone with Tim, and we're going over our deep discount stuff, and Tim goes, I got a great one for War and Westerns. He goes, go search for Blazing Saddles.
Is it on there?
No. Blazing Saddles is a comedy.
That's a war and Western?
It's a comedy.
Isn't that a Western?
It takes place in a Western town, but it is a comedy.
So before we go, so they also at Deep Discount, again, go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. But they have some new releases, and the latest one that they're releasing is Logan, which is said to be, it could also be as part of the Wolverine series.
It's one of the last chapters of the current X-Men cast.
And they said that it could be a standalone movie, and they also, a lot of the critics said that they felt the best performance so far by Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart
as Dr. Xavier.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but it's got good reviews, so you can get that at Deep Discount as well. The great thing about, as John mentioned earlier, about watching what you want to watch when you want to watch it is A lot of this on-demand stuff now, they're making you watch the commercials, and I don't like that.
You know, the other thing, I was talking to the deep discount folks about this, and this is a true. When you pop a Blu-ray in, and Blu-ray players are not expensive. I just picked one up at Costco for $45. The thing plays great. The resolution is different than streaming. It is almost cinematic quality. And I want to mention one thing about Logan. Before the movie was released, they did some black and white photos they released of the cast, and they were super popular. And they were so popular, in fact, that they released Logan as a black and white limited run theatrical release. It was about 2 weeks ago, and there's rumor that they're going to make a Blu-ray out of it. I think I included some of the pictures in the deck we have, but the photos are amazing. And that's no small thing for a studio to do, by the way. For them to release a black and white version of a color film, they have to actually regrade the film. Here's a.
Did you just do it like an Apple? Click,
No,
make
they
it
actually
black and white?
they have to go through and reprocess the film. They call it regrading it for black and white. And there's a picture of Patrick Stewart, I think, as Dr. Yeah. But I mean, black and white has a very unique look to it. And the fans were really, when this first came out, they thought the movie was going to be black and white, which would really break with precedent for the X-Men series.
So be sure to head over to Deep Discount and get the latest and get some great prices and some other great stuff.
Thanks, Deep Discount.
Now that segment ran.
That's just how it should work. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for some random sample with us, so stay tuned.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
That's my first one.
Satana in the movie Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. Also, not available on Deep Discount. That's a rare movie. If you find that somewhere,
What happened, John?
Look, Tim opened a Reese's cup and the bottom
Exactly
came off
what
on
we
the
said was
paper.
going to happen.
There
The
you go.
bottom came off. You had 85 years to figure this out,
Can I
Reese.
tell you something? I think you got a fresh cup. I think you're in for a
It's
treat.
a little warm under these lights.
So welcome back to the show. If you're watching live on Facebook, welcome, or YouTube. If you're missing the live show but you want to see the show, it's always available on YouTube. And, of course, our audio stream is Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google Play. Usually available towards the end of the week. So it's the random sample time where Tim and I take different publications and websites from across the country and the world, and we look at specific LGBT headlines. The world. We should have a little globe spinning, like a daily news thing.
Wow.
And I'm up first, and my first piece came from the Pride LA, which is an LA publication, and the headline was John Waters launches an adult summer camp.
I saw this.
Okay, right away. And John, we're going to definitely have to zoom in on a picture of him holding the paddle because it's all the activities that go on. Now, guess where this camp is at?
Is it out upstate Massachusetts?
Kent, Connecticut.
Oh,
I know. And all right, so
there's a campground there that I worked at one summer.
Could it be the same one?
And it was one of those timeshare campgrounds that they closed. That's exactly where it is.
All right, so set against the backdrop of picturesque yet appropriately creepy Kent, Connecticut, this weekend-long affair, September 22 to 24, will offer all the things you never got to experience during your youth, except for the part where John Waters curates the entire event. I
wonder what it costs.
It costs $4.99.
Let's go.
And it's sold out. It's sold out within minutes of
Where do you sleep? In a tent?
It could either be this, and remember the camps used to have those wooden structures that you'd put a tent on.
Yeah.
So I think that could be it. Or it could
I wonder if we could do a show from up there. That's a good time of year in September.
Yeah, so Waters will be.
Does it say what they're doing?
Oh, it's a drag bingo and it says John Waters.
One man show, hairspray karaoke, Scotch and cigars,
Bloody Mary bingo.
costume kind of dance party, John Waters film
marathon, burlesque lessons, bungee, trampoline, zip lining, slip and slide. Remember the slip and slide? That piece of
last
plastic
one in is a rotten egg. We've got to get.
So naturally, tickets for this once in a lifetime opportunity have sold out, but you can always try your luck on the waiting list. The base price is $4.99. And includes just about everything, even an autographed copy of Waters' latest book, Make Trouble. except the cost of alcohol. But surely you'll feel drunk enough just being there. So I kind of am like, wow,
Now, there's a gay camp in the Poconos. Melissa
Yeah, you
Etheridge
talked-
snuck in.
yep.
Would you go to that?
I
Woods?
I would do if I would prefer the Waters camp before I did anything
You wouldn't do
else.
the gay camp?
I would do the gay camp.
Or it's a
sure.
gay campground. Clothing optional too, John.
Oh, then let's do with Waters because then I'd rather play Bloody Mary Bingo, watch
You're afraid of
Female
you're afraid
trouble.
of the nudes.
now
Not Palm
Can I
Springs.
tell you, someone said to me once, we were walking through the rice paddies on the way to the beach at
P-Town.
E-Town, and one of the guys we were walking with said, here's how it works. Here's how it works. And we're like, what? He said, those who can, don't. Those who shouldn't, do.
What's that mean?
Those who can drop their clothes, you'd be like, wow, don't do it. Those who shouldn't drop clothes, okay,
shouldn't
yeah. So there you
You're
go.
demure.
So that was my first out of the gate was a bit of fa la la. I guess that would be the way of saying it, right?
Well, mine was very serious, but also in Connecticut.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mine came from Tony Karajanis sent this to us. And it came from Connecticut. It actually came from the Rainbow Times, which is the largest LGBTQ newspaper in New England since 2006. But the headline is Connecticut Senate unanimously approves bill to ban conversion therapy. So the governor of Connecticut, Governor Malloy, had signed a bill. It got 100% unanimous
From the
acceptance
state legislature.
from both Republicans and Democrats. The Connecticut Senate voted unanimously to pass Bill HB 6695, the protection of youth from conversion therapy, by 36-0 with bipartisan support. It was sponsored by a couple of senators with over 100 co-sponsors. And it goes into a detail about how detrimental this conversion therapy is for younger people. I actually had a friend in Portland, Oregon, that I met out there, whose parents at 13 sent him east for conversion therapy, shock therapy. He's still screwed up from it. I mean, it really, really messed him up, and it's obviously a bad thing. So they said when the governor signs the bill later this month, Connecticut will join California, Illinois, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, D.C. in banning this harmful and discredited practice. So if your state hasn't banned it yet, which I am in Pennsylvania, you're in New York, John. Neither of our states have. They need to do this because it's voodoo science, and they just need to get rid of it. So congratulations to Connecticut.
Our past is present.
Our past is still present.
Tim and I are Connecticut boys.
But I like when the legislature does something without
hemming and hawing, not a 5-1, not a 9, 59-44, whatever. Yeah. In other words, it's a declarative statement. Right. We don't believe in this practice. I agree.
Thank you, Tony, for sending that in.
Our next story comes to us from the Gay Star News, gaystarnews.com. A highly recommended site. Not only do they have a pretty deep well for North American stories, but there's a lot of stuff that happens around the world that we're not always aware of in LGBT news. That's kind of disturbing. But this one in particular happened here in the U.S. Airline refused to let gay couple and their kids use family boarding. You know how when they board the plane?
Yeah.
Families, kids, people that need extra assistance. So these two
I always
guys...
wonder about doing that myself. Limp a little, like with your bad toe, you and I can get
I could get on with if I stubbed my toe this morning. I think it's broken, actually.
So they wouldn't let them on as a family.
They wouldn't let them on as a family. So Grant Morris and husband Sam were scheduled to fly from Buffalo to Fort Lauderdale with the kids on Saturday, 20th of May. When boarding was scheduled to begin, they waited in the designated family boarding area. This would allow them to all sit together because Southwest has an open seating policy, first come, first serve. But then they were greeted by a gate agent who told them they needed to leave. This is for family boarding only, the agent said, according to the couple. They claimed the agent aggressively told the pair they couldn't board as family, even as the men explained they were married and both their names appear on their children's birth certificates.
I must have worked at Peeps before.
This is only for families. Yeah. You mean just born.
Just born.
If you're a Peep fan, you might not want to Peep. I know it hurts. I like Marshmallow.
No more
too,
Peeps for us.
We're
not family.
Give them up. We only talk to families. Oh, really? Well, families. Anyway.
So we sell to families.
It's a shame because I loved Peeps. But, sometimes you have to sacrifice to make a point, right? And so we vote with our wallets.
So I got you off track.
So we got me Reese's Peanut Butter Cups instead. They haven't done anything bad yet. So this goes on until they're finally boarded as normal passengers. One of the kids sat in a row, several rows in front of his two fathers. They were all split up on the plane. And the Southwest made a statement about this, and they said they claimed they were denied the boarding privilege because they were accompanied by Grant's 83-year-old mother. Now, I read that, and I'm like, that's even more reason. Right. That's even more reason to let the bunch go on. 83-year-old granny, the three kids, and the two parents. I mean, this is not like putting a man on the moon. So Grant said it was blatant discrimination. He's planning to take legal action, and if he does win any financial compensation from the airline, they plan to donate all the monies to anti-discrimination charities. I know. It's these little indignities that that many suffer every single day that always just make me say, how hard would it have been for the guy to say, welcome aboard, enjoy your flight? Yeah. Done. I solved the problem,
Pam and Nancy,
folks.
they have an adopted daughter, and they were traveling from Paris to Philadelphia, and they had their daughter with them. And the gate agent asked, or not the ticket person, who's the parent? And they said, we both are. And they said, well, no, really, who's the parent? And they went back and forth. They ended up missing their flight. They were taken into a private room, interviewed, and they said, we're both her.
Your parents.
We're her parents. We're same-sex couples. She said it was a nightmare. But it was the principle for them to say, we're not going to say I'm the parent. He said, we both are. And didn't want our daughter to see that. So I don't get it. I'm with you. Like, what? Move on, right?
There are way bigger problems in the world than boarding an 83-year-old mother, 3 kids and 2 people, or Pam, Nancy, and their daughter.
Right.
This is not like, yeah.
So this kind of falls into that a little bit. My second one is that there was a new poll that just came out that says support for same-sex marriage is at an all-time high. So this is from a Gallup poll. They said the whole country, 64% of Americans now support same-sex marriage 2 years after the Supreme Court had their historic decision in favor of marriage equality, according to Gallup. The poll came out this past Monday. It says support for same-sex marriage is the highest since they started polling in '96, when it was only at 27%.
Wow.
So it's gone from 27 to 64%. But when they break it down, for instance, if you look at by the different parties, so if you look at Republicans, it's 60. Republicans are 47%, but they said, well, that seems low. It's the highest it's ever been for the Republican Party. Yeah. 71% of independents support same-sex marriage, and 74% of the Democrats support same-sex marriage. So they said that this is despite the fact that in many state legislatures now, there's lots of percolating of bills to allow businesses to opt out of offering services, to LGBT or same-sex couples, and also refuse licenses and so forth by government officials. But they thought that was all good news. They said, interesting, I thought this was surprising. They said, for the first time, a majority of Protestants favor same-sex marriage, which is the very first time. I would have thought the Protestants would have been ahead of that at 55%. Yeah. The Catholics, they said, of all religious groups have always been the furthest ahead with 65%, despite the fact that their church leadership is against it. And they said this led into another part of the story about President Trump. And so the second part about this was they were wondering, they said that during the campaign he opposed same-sex marriage, but after he was elected, he was like, it's settled law. So a number of these different LGBT organizations have contacted the federal government to find out if Trump is going to do any proclamations for gay pride in June. And Kelly Love, you can't make it up, Kelly Love, the spokesman for the White House, says that she wasn't sure yet, but they haven't announced their June proclamations yet. But as soon as they know.
Wait a minute. It sounds like a castle and a guy comes out with a trumpet and actually with the whole family involved. Maybe Jared and Ivanka come out and unroll.
Right. So Kelly Love was going to let us know, but they said President Clinton started the tradition of issuing a proclamation to recognize June as Pride Month. George Bush discontinued the tradition. Obama brought it back. And they said Obama went one step further, and the different departments would also have celebrations. And the log cabin Republicans have been pushing Trump to do it, and they said they think Trump might actually have a number of high-profile LGBT people. They listed Caitlyn Jenner, Rick Grinnell, and Peter Thiel, similar to when he had the picture with the black college presidents.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Historically black college presidents. But then they said they can't imagine Jeff Sessions greeting the LGBT employees in the Justice Department. But they do say that Ben Carson plans to do something at HUD, and that James Mattis plans to do something in the Defense Department for LGBT month in June.
Well, Mattis, I'm not surprised at.
And also the Small Business Administration. So they said, well, they're not sure what Trump's going to do yet. He won't miss a photo op. So they're wondering if in fact something will happen. But they said that the smaller agencies will do something.
All right, everybody, take a big breath and hold it for as long as you can until we hear what Trump does. And then we're all going to just drop blue in the face.
What do you think he's going to do? Do you think he'll do something?
I think he'll go back to what the pre-Obama thing was.
Nothing?
He'll scratch it or do nothing, because it's almost as if you did that, I'm not going to do that kind of game that goes on there.
So what's your third thing?
My last is an uplifting one, and it comes to us from Gay Star News, and it actually involves the airline Icelandair. Icelandair chose a sweet middle-aged couple for a new ad, a new television, a series of TV ads are doing. John, that's actually a video, that little Icelandair thing there. So they chose two guys.
Is that their plane?
That's
I didn't know what that looked like.
Icelandair's official aircraft. Yeah, Roald and Sigur. I can't pronounce.
Here you go again with the names.
Well, yeah, they're from
John Smith and Bob Johnson.
Rob and Steve. I mean, I'm butchering the poor guy's name. They start off where these guys start off in Reykjavik and they tour the country, but there's a specific reason. According to the people behind the ad, one of a series, it's not just the fact that the couple are gay that's important here. It's the fact they represent a kind of gay male arguably not often represented in media and advertising, they say.
Oh, really?
In fact, and here's one of the Icelandair spokespeople said, it was an obvious choice to use a loving middle-aged gay couple for such an ad. Icelandair's customers are as diverse as they are many. We think it's only natural to reflect that in our marketing material and therefore aim for a marketing approach that reaches certain groups and is suitable for certain media. This ad portrays a cultural trip to Iceland, and the group it's aimed at is people who travel to enjoy. I wonder, John, did I put that on the same slide, or is it oh, no, there you go. There we go.
Are they going to show the couple?
Yeah, here's the couple. Thanks, John.
Where are they?
They're in Reykjavik now. They start off their trip here.
Eating.
They're going out to a glacier or something. They're
riding a horse.
We'll describe it if you're listening. They're on a pony.
Looked like the horse just pooped, didn't it, where that came out?
Now they're laughing. They're at a glacier.
Going to get a hot spring.
Geyser. Here's a geyser. That's like us at Old Faithful, right?
Yeah.
Sauna.
They're in a sauna.
Now
they're going to eat reindeer.
In there. And now they're
get goosing them in the pool. Look at that.
It's the Aurora Borealis. That's the night lights. So there you go.
I'm surprised you haven't been to Iceland.
You and I talked about
We want to go. A lot of talk.
We want to go, right? So it's an obvious choice to use a loving middle-aged couple for such an ad, but this time we thought, why not add to the diversity and make this loving middle-aged couple a same-sex couple? So the guys were thrilled to be part of the ad, and the way one of the reasons this really caught my eye was because the logic Icelandair used was exactly the talking points that we used for years with Subaru. And even with VW, I would say, you talk to a broad swath of people. Right. Your customers are many and varied. Why not show this type of customer in this ad for, and it doesn't seem to be a crazy thing to decide that, right?
Well, no. But Icelandair is probably a small airline and able to be a lot more nimble and has a very probably educated populace. And,
they do.
Yeah, so that helps, right? And Scandinavian, which they're way far ahead of the rest of us. So my third one, John, if I asked you what June 11th was, do you know what June 11th is this year?
No.
Okay, so that's my point on this.
Is that official?
So on June 11th, it's supposed to rival the Women's March that happened right after the inauguration.
The Unity and
so
Equality or
it's
something?
the Equality March for Unity and Pride. And why I bring this up, I was with some people from Volkswagen this past week, and they asked me, Volkswagen's based in Herndon, Virginia, which is outside of D.C., and they asked if we were coming down to do the march. And I said, you know what, I haven't heard much about it. And Dave said, that's why I'm asking you. I've got some friends coming in from Ohio and other parts around the country. I haven't heard much about it and can't find anything about it as well. So The Dallas Voice actually had an article about it. The headline says, D.C. Equality March scheduled. It says, for organized Dallas, disorganized D.C. is disconcerting. So they said a lot of people are having trouble. They've named a board. They've created the date. They're selling T-shirts. But beyond that, people are trying to figure out what the heck is happening. So it's Sunday, June 11th. And what has then ended up transpiring is that there's a number of cities, actually 73 cities across the U.S., in Ottawa, Canada, 3 cities in Australia, and Switzerland are also going to be holding equality and unity marches on that day as well. So if you don't get to D.C., all these individual cities are doing something. But it's a grassroots movement which will mobilize the diverse LGBTQ communities to peacefully and clearly address concerns about the current political landscape and how it's contributing to the persecution and discrimination of LGBTQ individuals. But
I think
the issue seems to be that this is happening, but nobody seems to really know it's happening. And we're talking about 2 weeks from now. And so it was funny when Dave asked me about it. I said, you know what? We heard about it in the beginning and haven't heard anything about it since. So
as well publicized, certainly, as the original. Remember the March on Washington from
right. Everybody knew what was happening, or the quilt.
Amazingly huge.
If anyone's planning on going, let us know if you're planning to go and how you're going to get there and what it's like. But it's kind of too bad that this was planned, but it doesn't seem to haven't taken hold yet. So that was my third thing.
There you go.
So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, John and I, it's Memorial Day coming up. So John and I are going to share some summer reads
quick ones
that we'd like to do and a couple of road trips. So stay with us.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Now back to the Focus Group with Tim and John.
Because he has a lot of chutzpah.
An entertaining look at the world of business.
Heads are spinning, heads are spinning.
Listen, laugh, and learn.
I am not gay. I never have been gay.
That's perverse.
Reverse. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. If you're watching on Facebook Live, thank you. Our number is 877-962-6846 if you want to join the conversation. You might also be watching on YouTube. We appreciate that as well. And if you missed the live broadcast, all the shows are on YouTube, our channel there. And the audio portion is Apple Podcasts. They call it Apple Podcasts now. SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes. Sorry, I said that one already. Google Play, Stitcher.
Just go to our Facebook page.
No, go to our site. FocusGroupRadio.com has everything there, including the deep discount logo. Okay, so as Tim mentioned before break, we're going to do a quick little thing before we wrap up before Memorial Day, and it's summer reading and summer road trips. So Tim and I each picked 2 or 3 books we want to try to tackle this summer and a couple of road trips we want to do. What's up first? Is it reading?
Reading is first, and I think you're first with the books.
It took me a second.
Pull out my
and you're going to see, Tim, I love
all
that
this
picture,
time
by
doing
the way.
this. Well, the reader?
Yeah, I love the reader.
You would like the reader.
I sit around in my
skivvies with a beer. You sit around with your beer with your tighty whities on, reading a book, John. Is that how you read in the weekends?
Perfect 20-something body. Waiting for a call back for a model shot, probably.
Reading War and Peace.
Well, it's the right side up. All right, so my 2 books that I put up here for the summer are a book by William Shatner. My mom actually read and highly recommended. I was surprised by this, by the way.
Right.
But it was a book about Leonard Nimoy, and it's called My Friend. Here we go. Now, interestingly, the 2 men, Bill Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, were really close friends for long after Star Trek ever was a show and even through the movies. But something happened at some point, and Leonard Nimoy just stopped talking to Bill Shatner. And
Did they say Shatner was a bastard?
He could be very egomaniacal and kind of, but this is a loving homage he wrote about Leonard, and there's nothing bad in it. But there was a point where their friendship just stopped, and it was kind of saddening to him. It was about 4 years before Leonard Nimoy passed away, 4 or 5. And the other book I'd like to read is a sci-fi book that's up for the Hugo Awards.
No.
Yeah, it's called Nine Fox Gambit. It won the Hugo and the Nebula Awards last year, if I'm not mistaken. And
is this dystopic? Takes place in
No.
2030. There's no water. There's no air. There's a disease. It's cold and lonely.
And you're describing America in a few years with "Make America Great Again," right? So no, we're living in dystopia, folks. You don't need sci-fi.
Or is this a
for
trip
this.
to Jupiter or something? What's this one?
no,
What's
this
the premise on this one?
It's basically the story of a woman coming to grips. She's a career military person, and some kind of thing goes wrong, and she's caught in the crosshairs. So it's kind of like one of those. It's almost like a courtroom drama, if I'm not mistaken, but it doesn't happen in a courtroom. But it's a very interesting book, and it's hard to get into because the author creates a world so unusual, and he plays like you know all about it, and that's part of the interesting thing about it. But I began reading it, I had to put it down because it was a harder read than normal. But that's on my. I have the book already. It's on my.
Ever start reading something and just stop?
Oh yeah. It took me years, by the way, before I
learned to
gave
do
myself
that.
permission, because I was taught if you start a book, you got to finish a book.
That's your mother, crack.
Cracky on there. All right, so those are my books. What are your books?
Well, you know, I'm all about truth, John, and fiction or nonfiction. You know, that's
Yeah, you're all about truth. Yeah, there you
So
go.
John Meacham wrote a book called Franklin and Winston, and
Is this John Meacham?
yeah, so it talks about the friendship of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Winston Churchill. And particularly the thing that I'm most interested in is for 24 days, very secretly, Winston Churchill moved into the White House. He stayed there for 24 days, he and the family, right before Christmas. And they said he was just wandering the hallways, drinking scotch, smoking cigars, boozing it up all day long. He would nude half the time. They said the staff, the ushers at the White House were so unnerved by it because he would wander around nude, and he wore a onesie once in a while, they said. But generally when he was in his room, he was nude, and late at night he was nude. But it talked about their friendship and about how they essentially won World War II and all the far-flung places they traveled together, from Tehran to Casablanca to D.C. So I wanted to read that. The other one was recommended by one of our listeners on Facebook, so thank you. It came from Randall, and I never heard of this person. Her name is Betty Peck. Do you know who she is?
No.
I'm sorry, Betty Peck. And the name of the book is The Last Good Night by Howard Blum, and it comes out. It came out this April, 2017.
So it's about the woman. It's about.
She was a spy. She was known as the Matahari from Minnesota, and she was the greatest unsung heroine of the war, according to General Donovan. She was a charming, beautiful, and intelligent spy, and she knew it. As an agent for Britain's MI6 and America's OSS. During World War II, these qualities proved crucial to her success. But there was just a bunch of unclassified information that had been released, and they pieced together this woman's story.
Wow,
which I thought was
good
interesting.
recommendation. So that was from
That came from Randall in California.
Thank you,
and then
Randall.
the third one that popped up for me, I've always loved him. I guess it's kind of
we both do.
Yeah, and it's kind of, he just moved to Southbury. He and his husband.
Seriously?
Where we grew up. And so Augustin, everybody says it differently, Burroughs, this is his latest book that just came out called Lust and Wonder.
Looks like it's delivered in a pizza box.
Yeah, and it's about, so a lot of his stuff is very memoir and
he kind of
observation.
The whole
right. And
Running with Scissors was
Sedaris does, they all are doing these sort of, or they've all done these sort of memoir things. I like Burroughs, though, better than Sedaris. For whatever reason, I like the writing. He's also been a guest on our show a number of times. But this one is about kind of all his loves and losts. So kind of getting involved in relationships and what happens and things that were successful and things that weren't so successful. Sometimes when you stay in relationships too long and what happens and transpires. So I'm looking forward to picking this up. It just came out March 27th, I think, was the actual release date. So that was another one I thought of for the summer. If I had to pick two, I'd probably pick this one first.
Lust and Wonder.
Then I would do the Churchill book, and then maybe this other one looks like it might be kind of heavy.
The Matahari of cool. All right, and
so then the other one was trips.
Road trips that we would like to do, and this was the way Tim and I categorized this was hop in your car. Maybe it's a 2-day.
Yep.
Maybe it's a single day. And so the first two that I came up with, one of them I am doing probably Friday, because I mentioned this to Tim a while back, and we were both like, wow, we grew up with Hanna-Barbera. So the Norman Rockwell Museum in Stockbridge, Massachusetts has had for the past 5 or 6 months, it's been that long, an exhibit about Hanna-Barbera and how they helped create the whole Saturday morning stuff. So it was Yogi Bear, the Jetsons, Johnny Quest, the Flintstones. So there's stills there. I'm sorry, I reversed it, John. So this is just from the Norman Rockwell page, but they apparently have a lot of concept art, original stills, and cells.
Can you buy stuff, I wonder?
They have a gift shop. I don't think you could buy, I think they've, on the display, they used to paint on these clear, so they have some of the cells, the animation cells. I'll check it out. It's about halfway. It's a half hour from our house.
Take some pictures.
Oh, most certainly, yeah. So Bob cleverly said if we go, because it's open all the way through the weekend, but it closes on the 29th. Bob said if we go, we got to go Friday.
Yeah.
And I said, why? He goes, before everybody else does. He said, but it's a half hour from our house. I thought, you know what? I love animation. I grew up on this stuff. So that's the first road trip. And the second one that John had up there before is Frank Lloyd Wright's masterpiece private home, Falling Water. And Falling Water is out in western Pennsylvania. Was it Fayetteville? Did I get that right?
I don't know, but I know it's out in western.
It is about, from the city, from New York, it's 5.5 hours, 5 hours or so. So Tim suggested that if we did a trip like this, I would love to just see Falling Water, period. I think it looks like a beautiful structure. I doubt it's as big as we expect.
Have you ever been to a Frank Lloyd home?
No.
They're dusty.
Have you ever been? They're dusty.
They're dusty, and there's a lot of angles and rough wood, but I'm sure it's beautiful.
All right, so Tim said to me before I showed him this, he said, we could do this trip when we go out to the railroad bridge. And I got a great email from one of our listeners who had a whole history about that bridge. Apparently there was bank robbers that supposedly buried money, like a bounty under there. And he said if you can hold off, do the bridge, the remains of that famous railroad bridge, and there's a glass thing you stand on, it's really high up. I know you don't like that.
No, I won't.
You would stand on the edge. He said do it in the fall because the view from up there and the foliage is magnificent.
It'd be beautiful.
So maybe we do Falling Water and the railroad bridge in the fall. So those are my two little road trips.
So mine are quick. One of them we thought of doing, because I don't think you've done it, is the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, we've been a lot of times.
Oh, I've never been. How come you're not taking me?
Well, we need to.
Is that the same as Ellis Island?
We need to take. No, Ellis Island is separate. You could do them both in one.
I want to
day.
do that. I want to do Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. I've not done either, and I want to do it. It's right there. I go by it. I've looked at it a million times.
You'd have a ball.
Yeah.
It's a great. The Park Service has done a great job with both. So
I'd like to.
We haven't seen Ellis Island ourselves.
I'd like to do that, and I would probably then. I have also not done the 9/11 memorial.
Oh.
Which I think you need tickets for, right?
The museum you do, and I highly recommend the museum.
So I'm going to have to come up one day in New York and maybe do the loop. And then the other thing I picked is another place I've always wanted to go. John and I go to D.C. a bit for business, but we've not done this yet because we're usually in and out, is the Smithsonian Museum, Smithsonian Institute. That's Archie Bunker's chair. They're particularly in the pop culture area where they've got lots of the memorabilia and lots of, Judy Garland's
the slippers.
And
it could be the loose set from I Love Lucy.
All kinds of great Americana. It's like America's Attic. So I've always wanted to go there. So those were the two trips that I picked.
I thought you picked great trips, and they're so totally you.
Well, I would like to go, and I think, I would do the ones you picked as well, except. Well, I can't do the museum because I'm not around this weekend, but so I think maybe we can weave these into our trips. So, hey, for people that called, thank you for calling. I know there's a number of calls we didn't get to because we'd moved on from topic, but we appreciate you guys contributing to the show and calling. So we weren't ignoring you. We saw that you called. We just couldn't get to the calls. So thanks for partaking.
They're calling because they want these.
They want
they want a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Thanks for joining the show this week. We hope everyone has a safe Memorial Day weekend. You can get the audio version of our show, of course, at focusgroupradio.com. While you're there, also click on the deep discount logo and shop away to get some great finds with some great prices from our friends at Deep Discount. And there's also a little button there. You could click on VW.com and learn about some of the new products that they have coming as well, particularly the new 8-passenger or 7-passenger Atlas SUV, as well as the larger Tiguan. They're going to do the original size Tiguan that they currently have and the larger one. And I was just at the gas station yesterday, and somebody noticed my All-Track and said, "Hey, I saw the advertisement for that. How do you like it?" So we talked for a while about the All-Track.
I love when that happens.
Yeah,
actually.
so it was actually fun. And don't text and drive, which drives me crazy again today. Some moron holding up traffic, texting, driving, weaving in the lane. It's dangerous. holiday weekend.
Isn't that what we have hands-free handsets in the phone for? Can't you talk into the air? I'll be there in 5 minutes. Push the button.
Oh, and I shouldn't say holiday weekend. Don't do it ever. Even if you just run out to the store, it's not that important. Say, hey, everyone, have a great week, and thanks for watching the focus group and listening along with us.
We'll see you in the summer.
See you in the summer. Get out your white pants, John.
And your buckskin.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, John.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.